The more you watch my videos and apply the principles and key points that are illustrated, you will continue to climb that ladder. The stronger you will become and the better you will become. The tactic that Black applies here is called deflection. Deflection in chess is a tactic that forces an opposing piece to leave the square that it occupies, exposing the king or another valuable piece to danger. After this recapture, knight c3 is being attacked, and so is the pawn on h2. In this position, it is white to move. Should pawn capture pawn on d5, or should white advance the pawn to e5? Let me take you back to the starting position. e4, c5, knight f3, e6, g3, knight f6, followed by d5. White takes the time to develop his pieces instead of capturing in the center. Advancing the pawn to e5 gains space and tempo on the knight on f6. The pawn on e5 is defended by the knight on f3, queen on e2, and the rook on e1. In this next example, white's bishop on f1 will be developed to g2 as well, and the queen will go to c2 instead of e2. The plan for white in this opening is different. However, white plans to gain space by advancing the pawn on e2 to e4. Right now, white threatens checkmate on h7. Black, seeing this, stops the threat by playing the knight to f6. What makes this pawn advance so effective is that the knight is pinned to the queen. Blocking the check with bishop d2, and after the queen retreats, white gains a piece. Now, the next tactic is known as the decoy. A decoy is when you force one of your opponent's pieces onto an undesirable square. If black accepts the sacrifice of the rook, then the queen will be lost. Check. And now the decoy is forcing the king to a dark square so we can deliver check with the bishop. Rook h8 check. The king has no choice but to accept, and now bishop c3 check, and white captures the queen on f2. In this setup, not only does white place the bishop on g2, but the queen stays on d1 until white can come up with a plan of how the queen is going to be used to attack the king on g8. Also, white has both the c and the e pawns placed in order to keep a grip on d5, a bind-like setup. The e4 pawn is a main target also. White tries to guard this pawn while advancing the pawns on the king's side in order to attack the king. Right now, the knight on e4 threatens knight f6, followed by rook to h7 checkmate. Black makes an exchange sacrifice of the rook for the knight. After the bishop moves to e6, white makes an exchange sacrifice for the bishop in order to weaken g6. In this final example, white does not develop the bishop but leaves it on f1. It gets traded off later with black's light square bishop, but the queen goes to the a4 square. And one final note, the queens are traded off. White intends to keep the king in the center. And if you're going to play with your king in the center, make sure you trade queens first. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button.